Welcome back to the Startup Storytelling Podcast by Lean Rocket Lab. We are so excited to dive deep into the real, raw, and often unpredictable journey of our entrepreneurs right here in Jackson, Michigan. I am your host today, y'all, Alex. I'm so excited to be back. That's right. And I got my co-host here, Ken Seneff, co-founder of the Lean Rocket Lab. Welcome, Ken.
Hi.
We're so excited to have you here.
I look a lot like Brandon, except for I don't have the yellow glasses. We traded.
We did. We're
Alex
excited
has
to have you
yellow
here.
glasses today. Thanks. It's awesome to be here. I can't wait to hang out with Shane today, talk about manufacturing.
Yep.
Like manufacturing Jackson, Michigan.
Let's go.
Obviously.
Right.
It's going to be a great podcast today.
Right. Super excited. Well, welcome, Shane. We've got Shane Grant here. He owns the owner of Machining Momentum here in Jackson, a manufacturer. We're excited to dive deep into this. Awesome. So you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, well, first of all, how are you doing today?
Good. I feel like I still have like the week kind of weighing on me a little bit, and just like have this Friday where I can kind of decompress, and I'm just kind of processing everything and how the week went. And so I'm good. I'm ready to be here and talk about what's going on and just share the journey and my story and what's going on.
Okay. So Shane, you started Machining Momentum in 2015.
Yes.
So take me back to 2015. What were you doing? What was going on? Why did you do that? Why did you start this?
Oh, I feel like, 2015 was just the culmination of years preparing. I was working for manufacturing companies within Jackson. I mean, I started when I was 15, and I spent 20 years going through industrial, automotive, aerospace, and kind of getting that kind of skill set that I needed to feel like I even had the confidence to be able to start my own company. So I finally decided, and I think it was probably 2014 when I have, a large piece of property, and I was like, you know what, why not just throw a building up in the back and let's see what we can make happen. And so I started, digging a hole and putting some sticks in the ground, and next thing you know, there's a roof on it, and we got concrete poured, and power's there, and I was like, let's throw some machines in there. So 2015, I established the LLC, and I went through that process, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea how to start. I had no idea how to kind of get that ball rolling. It was, back then, I feel like you have the internet and you have all these resources available to you, but now I feel like it's just so much easier to be able to go through an entrepreneurial process because there's been so many different stories, there's so many different resources and things that just I feel like are more accessible to you.
Right.
And when I was going through that process, I feel like a deer in the headlight. I didn't know what to do. I just knew that I had a skill and I had a dream and I wanted to push towards it. So 2015, it all kind of came together. I got my first machine and left a full-time job with all the securities, the benefits, and things that kind of make you feel all warm inside. And so let's just make myself uncomfortable and see what happens.
I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Tell us about the name. How did you come up with Machining Momentum?
So I feel like Machining Momentum, I've never wanted to be like Grant Manufacturing or I wanted it to be something unique. I wanted to have some feeling or some flow to it. And it's like every time I talk to somebody about it, momentum is part of our process. That's part of our growth. It's part of what it is that we do. And I felt like just making sure that machining so people knew what we did, but then understanding that there was, we have movement. This is what our company is all about. I felt like Machining Momentum just kind of fit what it is that we were trying to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
It stuck.
And it stuck. And anytime I tell somebody about it, they're like, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
It does.
So I feel really good. It's just the only problem is that I feel like it's a long business name. And so a lot of people are like Machining Moment. There's a lot of, spelling seems to be a bit of a problem. But other than that, I love the name. I love it. The logo comes together. Everybody's been really happy with the whole feeling of, the company and the image that we're putting together. And so it's been great to have that all come together how it has.
Yeah, if you're watching this on video, he's got a swag on.
Yeah, right. You got to, right?
Yeah, that's
right. So Shane, take us back. Okay, so 2015.
Yeah.
You had built this building. You bought a machine.
Yep.
And what was your situation? You were working full time.
Yep.
And married, kids.
Yep. So got a family. I have a wife and 2 kids, and it was one of those things where I had spent a decade in aerospace, and I prior to that working for a family-owned business and working for an industrial business, and then kind of moving into that aerospace. That was kind of like the culmination of my skill set. I needed to know that I could kind of go into those higher echelon of manufacturing spaces where I knew that I was going to be able to take on some of the hardest projects. I wanted to see what I was capable of, what my talents really were. And I never really knew until I went into that space. And so once I got there, we have these discussions, you're talking about what's the next step? What is it that I want to do with my life? And I always felt like there was just something more for me. I just kept hitting these ceilings. I kept feeling like there was more to what I could do. And I was never going to reach that within another space. I was always boxed in. And so, I had that conversation with my wife, talked to, everybody about it. Everybody supported my decision to kind of make that leap of faith. And, it was one of those things where I think that because I've, spent 20 years in the industry and I have, done all the things that I have, no one really questioned my ability to be successful. It's just it was me more or less that I was worried, because here it is now. I don't have any of these safety nets. I don't have any support. I don't have anything. It was really, there's no line of credit. It was just I was very raw and vulnerable in that space. And but at the same time, I think that, putting myself into uncomfortable spaces has kind of been my life journey. I'm always looking for things that challenge me, that push me, that make me uncomfortable, because I think those are the things that make you grow. Those are the things that, make you become the person and show you who you really are. And so starting this company definitely showed me who I really was. And it opened up some spaces for growth. It opened up some spaces for development, and it was really a rewarding process. And to just know that everybody was on board with me going through that,
Very cool.
So I remember, Shane, when I first met you, I at the time was working for, I can't remember if it was Michigan Works or the Enterprise Group, but I show up at your property and I'm like, oh. So I go up to the house and I knock on the door and your wife answers and she's like, oh no, it's back here in the back. So I go out my car, I go around, I go to this pole barn from the outside. I knock on the door, you open it, and there is like an advanced manufacturing facility inside this 1,500 square foot pole barn. It was unbelievable to me that you had gotten all that equipment in there and you had people working for you in there.
Oh yeah.
So talk to us about how you managed to, you built this pole barn, you managed to fund all the equipment in it. And I can imagine maybe you saved money to be able to do that from your full-time job. Like, talk to us about how you made this happen.
Yeah, so that was I feel like I'm lucky. I don't know how I did it. Honestly, I look back and I try to reflect on that process and to see how I did it. I had $20,000 in my 401k and I pulled it. That was what it was. I pulled that money. That was my safety net. I was able to put together a business plan and go to the bank and to be able to get some funding for a piece of equipment. It was a piece of equipment from a company going out of business that I was able to get through an auction. And that was the start. That was it. And I really didn't have a lot of resources to me. It was what the cash that I pulled from my 401k. I had a little bit of money just from transitioning over from the previous employment. And it was, you have this thought, you're talking to people prior to starting a company and everybody's like, oh yeah, if you start a company, we'll send you all this work. All these things are going to happen. It's just going to be like, and you have this like, it's going to be so easy. It's just going to happen. As soon as I open the door, people are going to be knocking on my door asking me if I'm ready to do all this work. And it was like crickets, nothing. Everything went quiet. All of the work that was supposedly there was gone. And so now I'm just like staring down the barrel of all of this responsibility that I just took on. All these,
looks like our DoorDash is
I like that.
Cafe
nice.
Fuel delivered right to our location. Find us in Jackson, Michigan. No, okay. Sorry, Shane.
No, good. It's all good. I just, at that point, it was, okay, now I need to figure some stuff out. Now I need to, get real with where I'm at, because I think, until you actually are faced with these things and until you, are challenged with the responsibility of, pretty much fabricating something out of nothing, that is what is, I think, one of the hardest things about it. Okay. You have no history. You have no name. Nobody knows who you are. You have nothing but just your skills and a belief that you can do it. And so now you have to convince other people that you have that ability because you have no history to show for it. You have no experience other than what you have prior to. And so, it was this very uncomfortable space that I kind of set into, and it was like, okay, let's start making this happen. And that's where I started kind of dive into social media.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the marketing, because you are such a great I'm going to call you a LinkedIn influencer because you influence me, man. You influence me. So talk to us about that. Talk to us about why you started that, how you use it, because I think a lot of our listeners could use that advice.
Sure. Well, I knew that I couldn't hire a salesperson to go run around for me and to find the work for me. And I didn't have the time to do it myself. I needed to be in that space. I needed to be looking at the equipment because I had a couple of jobs that were trickling in. There was this slow movement that was happening. It's like, I can't do both at the same time, but I can get on social media and I can start just sharing my story. And I think that's just like we're doing here now. That has been what has been the connection for me through all the different platforms, is just being authentic with my story. It's not that I'm trying to be so technical. I'm not trying to, make something that it isn't. I'm trying to be like, this is tough. This is hard. This is something that we're really struggling with. But, this is what we did today. This is something that worked for us. This is something that didn't work for us. So that way it's just a very, real story that people can connect with. And from that, I was really surprised because I think that, when you're reaching out to other customers and businesses and stuff like that, you kind of think that you're reaching out to a business, but you're reaching out to a person. Sure. You're reaching out to somebody on another side somewhere, and they're just like you. And so to make that personal connection with something, I think that's where the bridge kind of happened for me. And so once I realized that I'm talking to other people on the other side and they have stories just like I do, it made it a lot easier to be able to have that personal connection. And then let's talk business, because once you bridge that gap, then it just seems like it doesn't feel so, I don't know.
Well, you're building
forced.
trust.
Yeah, exactly. You're building trust and you're building a relationship. And those are the kind of things that you have to do to build a relationship. Be real with what it is that you're doing. And then you can talk about business and work from there. So,
right. So good.
So I want to keep hovering on this. I know I want to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to keep hovering on this because I know there's a lot of people out there right now that have an idea, have this vision for a business they want to start, right? And just aren't getting over that hump to say, okay, it's time to go do it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you did that.
Yeah.
And it was hard.
It was absolutely hard.
It was
So
uncomfortable,
hard.
right? But I think this story is incredible because you didn't have some big private equity backer. You didn't go raise capital. Right. You didn't go get a bunch of debt.
Nope.
Right? You got a little bit of debt to buy some equipment.
Yeah.
But you just went and did it. Okay. And I think that you think about all the different kinds of businesses you could start, right? It's not that you went and started a service business, because you could go do a service business tomorrow with no capital. You started a capital intensive business, right? You need capital equipment to do manufacturing, and you did that. And so I want to hover there because my hunch is there's a lot of people out there that are listening to this podcast or watching this podcast that have this idea and they just need that little push, right, to go do it.
Yeah.
So maybe one thing that would be helpful is you had kids, you had mouths to feed, you had mortgage, you had bills, you had all of it, and you still did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that person right now on the other side of this screen or this audio platform? What advice would you give them about this idea that they have that's been eating at them for the last few years? So
I get this question a lot, and I feel like I have the answer for it. And I know it's probably not the answer anybody wants to hear, but there's never the right time. There's
it's
never,
like having kids.
Yeah, there's never the right time. You can't plan enough. It's never, and even if all the planning that you do, you think that it's going to be enough, it's not going to be enough. There's always going to be something that you're not expecting, something that you're not prepared for. And I think that if you have an idea and you have a want to create something for yourself, you just have to commit to it and believe in it.
Yeah.
There is no time that it's going to work right. And I sit back and I look at it now, and it's like I did an evaluation just recently on what it would take to start a manufacturing facility now. And it was telling me, just going through AI and stuff like that, you need at least $500,000 and all these different things. And I'm just like, wow, that's crazy to me that is what, statistically they're saying it would take to be able to create something, because manufacturing is a very expensive business. It's something that not everybody can probably get started, not just get started, but to continue on, just because there is such an enormous amount of cash that you need to be able to support the growth of a company like that. But I think that at the end of the day, if you show up and you work, that is, I feel like the simple answer to being successful. And I think that there's a fear that comes along with too many things. And so if you can put the fears aside, you can put the timeline aside, and you can just commit to a belief that you can do something, then I think you can do it. But you have to have that commitment to it, and you have to have that belief in yourself and the confidence that, no matter what comes at me, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to surrender. I'm not going to allow negative influence to impact my dream and my vision, because it's your dream and your vision, and it's not going to be the same journey as anybody else.
Right.
I can share my journey all day long, and people can take that for what it is, but it's not going to be their journey. And so I'm happy to share all of the things that I've done, but it's not a blueprint, and I don't think that you can find a blueprint anywhere to be an entrepreneur. And that's one thing that's a real struggle, is people are probably looking for that because they want that I do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to get me to that result. And I think that you're never going to have that, and you are just going to have to be able to take the waves and be able to deal with it.
Absolutely.
All right. So your first, handful of years of business.
Yeah.
2015, you're open.
Yep.
You before you could make your first dollar, you had to build your building, get your equipment, get your debt to buy your equipment, outfit the building. So you're months and months and lots of money and your own time involved in before you can make your first dollar. So you made your first dollar.
Yep.
Talk to us about that. Was that a customer that
What's the first job?
Was it like a stranger? Was it somebody you knew? What was the scenario on your first dollar?
So my first dollar, which I can still remember, it was like the simplest job you could ever even imagine in manufacturing. It was almost like a washer, and I was so nervous. I'm looking at it here.
I'm sure you were.
It's funny is because before I left a place where I was making satellite fins that were going into space for companies that, is a 5-axis articulating equipment that's multi-million-dollar equipment. And here I'm working on this small piece of equipment, making a little, spacer for somebody. It was an extension for an enduro handle for motocross.
Okay.
And I had a connection from a guy that I actually had, built a relationship with. That was a machine sale. He sold equipment for, all of Michigan, and we had a relationship. He said, hey, I have a guy that's in Lansing. You might want to reach out to him. He's got a little bit of work that you might be able to do. So I did that, got a little contract with him and started doing some work, but it was just like everything became real then. I'm just like, wow, now it's my money, it's my tooling, it's my equipment, it's everything just kind of really hit me in that moment. Yeah. And so it wasn't necessarily a fear, but it was just a reality check. And so everything slowed down in that moment. And I was just really making sure that at this time now, what I do, it's like I'm wrapping my name around every part. I'm wrapping my company's name around every part. And so it just felt a lot heavier than when you're working for somebody else, where it's like, I go in and I do my work and somebody pays me to do it, and then I move on.
Yeah. The liability doesn't lie with you.
Exactly. And so, I got through that job, and I think you kind of shake, off the nerves after something like that. And then you just start building confidence from those little things, and you start believing in what it is that you're doing, and it's like, okay, now I got through that. I can breathe a little bit, and I can look for that next thing. And so that first dollar, I still have the check framed, from that first job. So that way it's just that reminder. And it was like $500, it was cool. Nothing. But it was enough to just give me that, confidence that, I was doing the right thing.
Well, okay. So you found your first customer through, it was a second degree relationship.
Yep.
Right? You had a relationship with a guy that sold machine equipment.
Yep.
And you knew another guy that needed some help. Now, take that as advice out there.
Yep.
Your first customer, your first dozens or hundreds of customers can come from your first, second, and sometimes third degree relationships. And so you have more relationships than you think you do. And people
absolutely,
people want to help you, right? Yeah. And so you just put it out there, and that guy just wanted to help you. And that all happened from there.
Yeah. I mean, once you get through that first project, and then, you have to start, you've reached out to all your friends, the people that you've created relationships with, and you've kind of, that has been, what I would say, dissolved, I guess. That is no longer, there's no more to tap into there. Now now you got to start working on your own, and that's where social media really came in for me. So all of the posting that I was doing, you started to get some attention from it. And I had a company out in Washington State that had said they had a problem with getting
not next door.
No, not next door. Not next door. And I feel like this is a really fun story for me, because this was a big one. They had said that they had a project, they needed to have it done, and they were struggling to find a resource for it. And so they sent me a blueprint. I quoted it, but instead of just quoting it, I made them a sample part. I hopped on a plane and I flew it to them. So I showed up on their doorstep with product in hand, and I said, I can make this. It was like that for me. I needed to do something big to showcase,
Absolutely,
you know, what it is that I was in. I was on board. I was here.
You were 110%
I was 110%.
You weren't messing around.
No, I was not messing around. You know, doing that, there was no money in it for me. It was a complete gamble. It was a complete risk, but that was my first big contract. They were so blown away by my effort to fly out from Michigan across the country, show up on their doorstep with their product in hand, that they're like, you got it, you know? And so it was 3 years that I made products for them, and I got enough product from them to be able to hire my first employee.
Let's talk about that. That was going to be my next topic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Talk to us about the decision-making of when to hire the first employee and the kind of risk you have to take to be able to do that. Like, talk to us about that and your mindset around it.
You know, hiring an employee was always something that I feel like I have a responsibility when I bring somebody in. I take it as I'm bringing somebody that's counting on me to create a stable environment for them, because they're taking care of their own family. They got their own story. They got all of these different things. And so I take that to heart, and I take that as a responsibility. And I want to make sure that if I was bringing somebody in, that I'm there to support them for the long term. It's not just, I want to get somebody in here for a couple of months to help me out so that way I can get through something. I wanted to make sure that I had enough work there to support somebody, and it was a long-term situation, which he still works for me to this day.
Yes, get it, Shane. Okay.
Yep. He's been with me for 6 years now, and it has been a great relationship. The things that we have done together, the growth that we've had together has been great. But it was like overnight though. You can see though the difference that happens when you hire somebody. It's nerve-wracking. It's stressful. You've got liability, the insurance and taxes and all these different things that you wrap up into having employees, and just that responsibility of managing that. It just goes to that next level of being a business owner. And, I doubled overnight the sales of the company, because it's like, oh, there's 2 people now, there's 4 hands, there's, all of these different things moving, and now I can do double the amount of work, and it is double the amount of output, and so that math just started mathing for me a little bit, and I'm just like, oh, I should just keep getting more people, because as long as I've got the work, as long as I got the resources to support it, then I want to make sure that, I'm bringing people in as needed and stuff. And it's been a great experience to bring people in, except it is a challenging process, finding the right people to fit that space. And in manufacturing, especially with a skill set that's so high, I know Jackson is known for manufacturing, and there is an enormous amount of people here, but I think the things that we do are just somewhat different and specific into an industry where we do a lot of aerospace and medical manufacturing, but there's really tiny components that require a lot of attention to detail. And those are the kind of things that it requires a little bit of OCD. You got to you got to have certain things that allow you to come into an environment like that is a very challenging and tedious space, and to be able to handle that kind of pressure. There is a lot of pressure, but I think the one thing that I have set the tone for with our company is we are creating a culture there. There is something special about when people walk into our space. They can feel it, they can sense it, they know that there's something different about this space. And the guys, when they come in, they can feel it as well. I'm there to support them, not just as a boss, but just like I'm shoulder to shoulder, machining, helping them do whatever inspections that have to be done, whatever it is that they need on a daily basis. They never have to go looking for me. And that was something that I always struggled with working for other companies, that I always felt there was a gap there. I always felt like I was missing leadership. And so leadership for me has been one of my main focuses as I've been growing the company, to make sure that that's something that feels so present on a daily basis.
And it's so important.
Yeah. So fast forward us. How many employees do you have today?
Well, that has fluctuated. I have, there's 2 employees and myself, so there's 3 of us. I've been trying to hire another 2 people. So if there's anybody out there who's looking for
looking for a job,
looking for a manufacturing job, I definitely am looking for the right people to fill that space. I think that 2026 is going to be our breakthrough year. This year alone, 2025, we moved facilities. We went from our little pole barn.
I have lots of questions about
that. I know, right? And we bought a building and did renovations, and we're having our best year yet, even with all of those things happening. It's amazing to think that with all the transition, with all of the pressure, with all of just the growth that's happening, that we were still able to produce, almost 50% more than we did last year in sales. Get out of here,
Shane. Yeah. That's amazing. Incredible. You guys. Okay, so if you can find Shane on LinkedIn, you'll be able to see kind of the backstory of this building that I'm about to talk about. But Shane outgrew his pole barn, obviously. it was tucked in there tight with all that
was.
equipment.
Yeah.
But you had found a brownfield. And for those of
Yes.
you who don't know what a brownfield is, that is a building that is contaminated and needs to be cleaned up before it can be used again for a purpose. And so you found a building that was a brownfield.
Yep.
And man, did you have some hard times with that.
Oh,
So
yeah. That
you
was,
had a fire.
Yep.
I mean, man, we didn't think it might happen. So talk to us about that journey, because that is a difficult journey and
Yeah.
that takes persistence.
Yeah, and it was really not just challenging alone, but it's like I'm still running a company.
Yeah.
I'm still at another facility. We're still trying to keep things moving, and so the logistics of it was a nightmare alone. But
Yeah.
in the process of actually purchasing the building, somebody had set the upstairs on fire, and so I got that phone call from my realtor just saying, "Hey, just wanted to talk to you about something." I was like, "Okay."
I just want to talk
Right.
to you.
Little detail.
Right. And she's like, there was a little fire. And I was like,
Little fire.
okay. So, I feel like at this point, you have to have this calmness, I think, about you as an entrepreneur, because I think that, your emotions are going to run high on a daily basis. Yeah. So for you, I think as an individual to be able to have control over your emotions and to be calm in all these situations, I think that's key, because I think it can definitely, it's an emotional roller coaster. It's
is.
something that it takes you to so many different places. And so I just said, okay, let's go take a look at it, and looked at it. And I mean, it worked out in my benefit. I was able to get a substantial discount on the building, because now there was no insurance on the building. The windows had been broken out. It was, burnt to a crisp. So I was like, okay,
So not a little fire.
I mean, the upstairs was pretty toasty, So I wasn't too concerned about it, because the manufacturing space was my core. I needed that. But the office space, the upstairs space, was like, still there's a liability there. There was a worry there, and there's this next level of renovations that have to happen that I wasn't planning on, money that I wasn't expecting to have to spend.
And you did this renovation on your own.
Yes. I mean,
so you never not worked.
No. Yeah.
You were working 24/7.
Pretty much.
Talk to us about how you keep sane during that, because that was you told the story along the whole thing. It was very amazing to watch it, but mentally and stuff. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes I don't know what it is. I have this ability to push myself into spaces where it's like, it's just like going to the gym and working out, or doing something that you feel like you've hit your breaking point and you're ready to quit.
Yeah.
I feel like we all have the potential and the capacity to do more. And I think people are just afraid to push past that. And I think as an entrepreneur, that's going to have to be a comfortable space for most people. You have to be able to push your self past that point of where you feel like you can go and reach to those new heights. And this was just something, I was just excited about it. I was thrilled about having the opportunity, because prior to that, I was looking at building. It was like $1 million to build a building. I'm just like, I don't have those kind of resources. And I think that's the thing that scares people, is like, if one door doesn't open, there's like, well, then I guess I can't do it. And for me, I'm just like, okay, what's the next door? I just keep opening doors until I find the right one for me. And that was my door. I was like, okay, we're going to make this work no matter what happens. I'm going to push through a fire. We're going to push through other renovations. And I'm talking the renovations on this building. Anybody that looked at the pictures of that building, it looked like a scary movie set. I mean, it was rough. It was something that I could see past that, though. And I think that entrepreneurs have vision, and that's what makes us special.
Look at it now, man.
Right, I know. It's a gorgeous facility. Anybody that walks in there, it's stunning, the way that we've been able to just transform that space into a fully functioning manufacturing space. And we still have more to do. There's more growth that has to happen there. There's more renovations that we're still working through, but the space that we needed to renovate and to have it functioning in a way for us to be able to do business, we nailed it. It looks just like I had dreamt it up, and the guys that work with me, they were on board the whole time. I mean, we got propane torches running. We're running in the dark. We have no water. We have no heat. We're doing this through the winter. I mean, it was just brutal, the amount of effort that we had to put in to make this space become what it is today. But I think those are the kind of things that make you appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah.
If I was to just buy a
kidding
building
me?
where it was done, we
You're
moved
gonna cherish
in.
that space.
I know, right? And I think that that's just like, the whole story, my whole story has been going through those hard times and doing things in a very, organic and raw way, where I don't have the money to be able to do it like, some of these people that have, backing, and they have funding, and they have partnerships and all these different things. I didn't have that. I just had a work ethic, and I had a nothing's going to stop me attitude. And so we made it happen. But you go through that process, and I think there's just so much more that you gain from that than you would to just have it.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the story. That is being an entrepreneur. And so, this was getting that building and doing all of that. I was like, well, I guess this is just part of the process. I mean, we've had floods, we've had fires, we've had power outages. I mean, you name it. I'm just looking, it's like, well, we haven't had a hurricane. So it's like, we're just like checking the natural disaster list off along with all of the other things, because there's so many other things that you can't account for, personnel and just things that are happening in your business that happen on a daily basis that you can't, you can't expect. It just happens, and you have to be able to, make those adjustments on the fly.
So, okay, so you've got a big vision.
Yes.
For where you're going, right? And I assume that there's a multi-year vision in front of you for this business. So you're not there yet.
No.
Okay, talk to the viewers out there, okay? So you went from quit your job, took this leap, started this business, and candidly, it sounds kind of awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard.
True.
It's hard.
You've worked your tail off.
Yeah.
You've been through
Super
adversity,
hard.
all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship.
I think what happens to a lot of people is you get really excited about something, right? An idea, a business venture, an opportunity, okay? But there's a big difference between being excited about something and being passionate about it, right? And when I hear you talk, I hear the passion come through.
Yeah.
Well, and talk about, where does that come from for you? Is it passion for your vision for the future? Is it passion for the work? Where does that come from? Could you try to put that in some words for people?
I don't know if I can necessarily put it into an exact word, other than I just have a belief in myself that I can do anything. And I feel like there's I don't want to say an arrogance there, or, it's an ego thing. It's just a belief that I know that I can do bigger things, and I don't want to feel like anything's going to stop me from that. And I mean, there are dark days, believe me. I mean, it is, people break under these kind of pressure, under this kind of responsibility, under this kind of just being unknown. And I think those are some of the things. It's like I was doing a little bit of a reflection the other day. I do a lot of writing, and when I'm writing, I kind of go back and I look at when I started to where I'm at, and I'm 10 years in now. This is a point where a lot of people don't even make it to. Usually the 5-year mark is where that's the
2 year.
the pivot. And for us to be 10 years in to doing the things that we're doing and to be able to continue to reach these kind of heights, I like to go back and I like to reflect on some of those pivots and those growths and those things that we've gone through to kind of see how I was able to get through that. And I know that a big portion of it was just self-development. I had to do a lot of self-development, a lot of self-care, things for myself, to where I was able to stay grounded and to stay focused and to be able to gain this muscle memory of just dealing with things. Because, now I look at the hard and the things that we're doing, they are extremely hard, but we've been doing it for 10 years. And so they don't feel as hard. Yeah. And so you just build up the resilience, I think, to the challenges that you're facing. And because I don't think they're ever going to go away. I don't think it's ever going to be easy. It's always going to be a challenge. Yeah. But you build up a tolerance to it. And I think that right, you can push through those things because I've been through this, and this. These things are nothing. I mean, I literally had the building almost burned to the ground, and I've had 2 feet of water inside of me. There's been so there's been so many different challenges that we've had to go through that. And not just the challenges that I went through personally, but to have my team be there and support me through that process. I mean, I think that the flood was probably the one that almost broke me.
Yeah, that was a really bad winter storm we had, and you had like 2 feet of in your pole barn.
Yeah, we had
water.
2 feet of water that came into the building. My office was floating. All of the motors for the equipment was underwater, and I mean, half of my tooling, all of my resources were just there, and I'm just standing there in shock, not really knowing what to do next. I mean, I ran into the building. There's still power in the building. I'm not thinking about anything other than here's my baby, the thing that I've been working so hard for, and I can't do anything. And it's like, these are the kind of moments that it's like, for me, I hope that I can reach this point of success where I can help other entrepreneurs like financially, support them through processes where they're struggling or they have a disaster happen, because there's nobody. I mean, insurance wasn't going to help me because of the loopholes, the things that you don't have in.
You're not in the floodplain.
I'm not in the floodplain. Exactly. And so it's just like, now what do? I don't have this cash. Now your company's down. Your people are working for you still to help you to try and rebuild. I mean, I slept in my truck for 3 days pumping water across the road.
I remember that. That's
You know, it was
crazy.
brutal. But, you
Yeah.
know, it was something that was like, okay, when they came in, it's like, we'll fix this. We'll make it right. And I was like, all right, if you guys are in, I'm in, you know?
Yeah.
And so I called people. I had pumps going, and we had, I think, 600 or 800 gallons of water pumping across a minute
I
at the
know.
building, and we made it work. 16 days later, we were back up and running. And that was, for me, I think, the one major pivot that gave me the confidence that there's nothing that we can face that we can't get through.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad that you brought up writing, because our last podcast guest, Dallin, has created a journal, and he talks so much about how writing is so important for him as an entrepreneur to get past, you know, negative thoughts or whatever.
Sure.
So I'm so glad to know that you also find that beneficial, because he talks so much about that.
Huge.
So,
I'm actually writing a book about everything that I've been doing.
that's amazing.
I've been spending the last year writing about, just because I knew that there was going to be huge growth, all of these different changes. And so I'm talking about my story, what I just went through, and I'm going to write for 2026. So that way there's 2 years of writing of just all these transitions, but then the story and just kind of seeing where I'm at after that. So we'll see.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, so last question for you before we
of
wrap up.
course.
Talk to us about what's next. What is the future of Machining Momentum? Talk about anything that you want to our listeners here about what you're working on.
Yeah, so I think that the company has been just continuing to grow solid. I mean, the markets that we're in are sound. We kind of have stayed away from just that competition of doing, you know, automotive work where, you know, you're just nickel and diamond and fighting for all these different contracts. We take on the work that nobody else wants. It's hard, it's challenging, it's something that builds some character, but you know, that's what's been really good for us, and we've been really successful in it. And I see next year us continuing on that journey, and I've already had 3 or 4 new relationships that have been developed in the last couple of months just through LinkedIn connections and people referring me, which is amazing that I have people that I don't know now starting to refer me, you know.
Third layer
Yeah,
connection.
yeah, it's crazy.
Fantastic.
It's wild when it's like this guy, and I was like, I don't even know who this guy is, but and I've never even done business with him. But we have just been so consistent with just sharing our story. But I think the one thing that we're really excited about is I feel like manufacturing has been somewhat of an artistic outlet for me, and so I have a product idea, and we are working on developing that product in the moment, and we're hoping next year that we will be able to actually launch our first product as a company.
Oh,
and
let's
to,
get it.
I know, right?
Okay.
Do something really exciting, because I think every entrepreneur running a company and doing something like that, especially in manufacturing, having your own idea, your own product, and I'm not just supporting, you know, all these different industries, and I'm not just a service to all these different companies and stuff, but to be able to have something that you can, you know, your own tangible idea in your hand that you can share with other people that you feel passionate about, and just know that I've just spent 30 years in manufacturing, and I'm bringing in all of these ideas to this one spot. That's really exciting. So we'll see how that evolves. But
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're fired up.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
cool.
where can people find you? Website, LinkedIn, like what is it called?
Yep.
Give us
So
all the deets.
Go to www.machiningmomentum.com, and I think all my socials are up there: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You know, it's all there. I think that I'm probably more in the LinkedIn space, just because I feel like that's been where I've been able to gain the most professional connections, and that has been really good for me. But I mean, I've got TikToks with videos, and if you want to see the flood, you want to see some of the disasters, I try to put as much of a light spin on those things as I can. But I mean, that's the real. I mean, those were moments where we were just taking video of that experience and going through that process. And so I think that if anybody wants to go to the website and just kind of pick through the different platforms that we have there, I think you'll just see different layers and levels of what it is to be an entrepreneur.
That's awesome, man.
awesome.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
No,
Shane.
thank you for having me. It's been
Man,
great.
what a good story.
It's great.
Okay, everybody. Well, make sure that you subscribe wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever it is, so that you get our next episode. Bye.
Hey, everybody.